It's looking at the total contribution of the forestry sector to the economics here in Kentucky and look at some of the key timber commodities as well. I'd like to thank the team that's worked on this and also thank contributors from the Kentucky Division of Forestry whose data we would not be able to live without. Same way with the U.S. Forest Service and Kentucky Forest Industries Association, so we appreciate them. So I'll have a quick look at total economic impact, estimated to be in 2014 at $8.3 billion. With a total contribution of $12.8 billion, and there's our direct employment and total employment numbers as well, and that's up 5% over estimates for last year. And unlike my other colleagues, I will take credit for all of that. So these are the sectors that are involved in that. You see logging circled over there, so we start there. Primary milling, that's sawmilling. Pulp and paper, we have 2 pulp and paper companies and facilities here in Kentucky. Secondary industries are making our cabinets, our flooring, barrels, those kind of things, and then paper converters. Paper converters making regular copier paper, those kind of things, Dixie cups, and we got to thank the paper converters because if you went through fast food, they just dumped the food in your hands if you didn't have paper converters. So they're big. Everybody is up substantially. We've got responding to the uptrend in the U.S. economy. All sectors are up. Logging, there's a lot of volatility in that right now. Estimates are very hard to do. It's the sector here that I'm worried most about for a couple different reasons. One is it's tough. It is very fragile. And if you pull that sector out, about 2/3 of the rest of this collapse. So that's a small sector there that we really got to keep our eyes on. We did maintain stability in the number of industry locations, 703 facilities in 109 counties. The same as last year. We've had an increase in 576 loggers since 2012, and we have good logging distribution of those that cut and haul our material out of our farms and woodlands. Overall production estimated in 2014, we're up. We're still climbing. You can see what the recession did to us in overall production of saw logs. We're still the leading producer of saw logs in the South, in the top 3 in the U.S. So we contribute significantly overall to the national situation in regards to hardwood lumber production. And those numbers are up, we estimate about close to 4.5% over last year, and that is a sustainable level. Oftentimes we get that question as well. Can we sustain the level of cut that we're at now? And we can. This is kind of a noisy graph, and I'll try to simplify it. This is the delivered log price per 1,000 board foot of grade 1. That's high quality logs. The logs are going to be cut into good grade lumber that you use for a lot of different things, high quality cabinetry, furniture, all that kind of thing. Each one of those lines represents a different species. Black walnuts at the top, followed by white oak, and then the red line is red oak, and under that, beneath that, and the very bottom is yellow poplar. And so the main point here is you can see what's happened in the last year. All those different graphs there are going up, and lines are headed up for all species, and I'll show you a specific date on that. But one reason that I put this up here is because let's look at red oak right here, which is one of our more important species group in the state. And you can see the levels of the red oak pricing that was out in here, 2000 to 05 and going into 06. And you can see the levels that shrunk to over this fairly substantial amount of time, and you look at the levels they're at back now. All these species are going back to pre-recession levels, and that's fairly significant. That's money in everybody's pocket. And so what the graph that we just saw was this column right here for high-grade logs. Here's a different species, of course, and you see we had a 23% increase in all those species. Grade 2 are medium grade logs, and grade 3 are low grade logs. So what you see here is that we've had a percentage increase across the board, all species, all quality of logs, and that's a good thing. Hickory was one of the more important species this year. Sometimes it can be a very, very low valued species. We have hickories in almost all woodlands. It's commanded good price increases this year for all grades, and particularly low grade materials. So that's been a mover and has contributed to improved cash receipts and profitability overall. And I'll finish with just looking at a couple commodities here. Tie logs. So these are logs that are used for the production of railroad ties. Very important here for Kentucky. We export them. And it's been a staple. The development and the cutting and hauling of tie logs has been a staple for our industry for a while. Every acre of woodlands has tie logs in it. That's very important. We've seen a slight softening in the price of those. This year, there are reasons for that. It will rebound, or it's predicted to rebound next year slightly, and those numbers, even though softened slightly, are still good numbers, and it's still quite profitable. Okay. Stave logs, a lot of talk about bourbon and the importance of bourbon worldwide and increased sales of that, and whiskey as well. And wood is a big contributor to that. You can't have bourbon without it. And there's been an increase in demand for barrels, staves, stave logs that go into production of cooperage and barrels. And we've seen an increase in price of that, and that is going to continue. The estimates on bourbon consumption, I don't know who's drinking, keep doing it because it means more barrels. That's good for the wood industry. And so there is concern over sustainable supplies, though. Those are all made out of white oak, and so we have a lot of pressure on a particular species. So that's something we're watching. Exports were a big thing. They've been coming up since the recession. You can see what happened with Asia right there. Jumped up significantly this last year, and so our exports are up overall. Asia being one of the primary movers, of course. Our biggest wood export is used wooden barrels, casks. And that includes both going to the EU and Europe, as well as now Asia. And of course, the overall trend in the wood industry and the health of our wood industry is related to the overall U.S. economy, and housing starts as an indicator of that, and because in housing you use flooring and cabinetry and furniture and all those kind of things and products that we make here and supply saw logs for and lumber for. And so as you see the increasing in housing starts generally trending upwards, that bodes well for forestry. It bodes well for components of horticulture as well. And so I'll finish this up by saying, looking at our 2015 outlook, saw logs for lumber, the demand should peak in 2015, and there should be still a strong presence of the South in the market share. So we're going to maintain good market share predicted to here in the South. Low-grade logs, those are for cross ties and pallets and those kind of things. Stable to slightly improving markets in 2015, and the ties are set to rebound and stabilize in 2016. So we're looking at a good year, should look at a good year next year as well. Pulp wood, that's a production of paper, is going to be stable. We have two facilities here in Kentucky, a New Page facility and a Dontar facility, and that New Page facility is going to be bought out by Verso. So what happens there, and that acquisition is going to play a part, although all indicators in the industry, they've shed some, Verso's already shed, and New Page have already shed some facilities, not the one in Kentucky. So it looks like we're going to be stable there and maintain that economic output from them. And as I mentioned before, stave logs, the demand is going to exceed the supply, so that's a good thing from a seller standpoint. So overall, in timber as a commodity, it's a seller's market, which is good for woodland owners and farmers.
Thank you, Jeff.